Yeah. I don't think there was any way around that. Uh-oh. Oh, no! Dark Souls is a series that has gained a particularly infamous reputation over the years for a number of reasons, but chief among them is its overwhelming emphasis on difficulty. The stages are unfair, the bosses hair-pulling uphill scrambles, and the secrets nonsensically counterintuitively levied against the player in a way that makes them intentionally impossible to discover on their own. Or are they? Anyone who's played the later entries in the series can tell you that with a good understanding of the average traps and ambushes, you can easily circumnavigate most of these challenges. The Souls series doesn't have quite as many tricks as you'd think, with many of them shamelessly ripped and reused to be built upon for later designs. Even the difficult challenges in early games are a paltry struggle compared to the twitch-action, high-octane murder holes that make up the bosses like the Nameless King, or even average enemies in the later parts of Sekiro. And even then, the game only becomes especially hard when you try to rush through without observing your surroundings, or more importantly, fail to stop and learn the mechanics.
I'm looking at you, Mr. I put points into resistance.
The difficulty curve is actually more of a difficulty hike. Once you've completed one of these games, it will likely put you in a significantly better position to understand the others, both in learning the mechanics and learning how not to put yourself in a situation where you can't possibly win. Is the game punishing? Oh, absolutely. But is the game hard? Well, that depends on your skill and your expectation. If you go into Dark Souls expecting Satan to castrate you in the fiery pits of hell while Miyazaki regales you about the next 3 poison swamps he's going to put into his games, you will likely either be ready for it or bounce off it the first time it really gets challenging. The stages can be unfair, the bosses can be hair-pulling uphill scrambles, and the secrets...
No, those are actually complete f***ing nonsense. In Dark Souls 1, it took people like 3 days to find the DLC. Like 3 days!
So, why talk about Dark Souls in this review about Inscryption, the newest weird-ass game from developer Daniel Mullins, maker of such games as Pony Island and The Hex? Well, this game joins as the second I've reviewed that fits into the I can't actually talk about this game because it would ruin half the point of actually playing it genre. And because I'm fairly sure that's not good enough for most people, we instead need to talk about expectations.
Although, now that I think about it, Inscryption is actually fairly challenging. Mostly I just haven't had a chance to compare a game to Dark Souls yet, so, okay, here we go. Inscryption is like the Dark Souls of video games. There you go. Check that one off the bingo card. Look at me, I'm a games journalist.
If all you knew about Dark Souls is that it's very hard, you'd probably go into it with the mindset that playing it will be a cloying, obnoxious experience. But that undercuts the wider strength of the Souls series. Its jaw-dropping vistas, its deep, intertwining lore, and its old-fashioned exploration and adventure game-esque roots. And your impression of the game as a pure challenge gauntlet may prevent you from ever seeing anything else the game has to offer. So with that in mind, what should you expect from Inscryption? Well, it's a roguelite deck-building game. You start with a small selection of cards, and slowly gain new ones, modifying and augmenting them in order to finally beat a run. You'll be presented with randomized events, and if you get lucky, you might just find something broken enough to carry you all the way through. Or maybe it's an escape room. After your first loss at the card game, your game master lets you get up from the table and wander through a cramped, sealed cabin. There are strange knickknacks and various puzzles scattered along the walls that you can interact with, ominous lights and conspicuous figures peeking through the scattered planks, and each one you solve seems to bring you closer to finding your way out. Or maybe it's not either of those two things at all. Maybe there's something even beyond the game itself. When you boot up the game, there's already a file that you need to continue from, and the new game option is just completely blanked out. And after starting up and going a few rounds at the card table, some of your cards begin talking to you through their own flavor text.
I love that weird fourth wall breaking crap.
See, all of these descriptors are factually true, but none of them entirely capture exactly what the game has to offer. If you go into Inscryption expecting a fun deck-building game, there is one there, with a great amount of character, nuance, and depth, but then you're only really looking at about a third of the experience. And if you want depth, well, good news, there is a lot of features to go around. That in and of itself is Inscryption's greatest strength, but also its greatest weakness. Simply put, Inscryption doesn't know when to stop, which is great, but it also means some mechanics are going to feel well designed and have fantastic synergy, and other parts are going to feel like they needed a few more coats of polish. It's hard not to feel like the game is missing out on developing certain features, especially when it teases modes that get very little time to shine. The good news is, throughout all of this, we get guided by our enigmatic, Satan. Yeah, that's just Satan.
That's okay though. I like Satan.
Mr. Satan here takes the role of Game Master, softly describing the events that unfold in front of your dubiously interned protagonist. And I mean that literally. You are the person sitting at the table with him, staring down at the board, playing in front of you. It's unclear exactly what the person across the table really wants, or what's really at stake, but one thing is for certain, when he roleplays, he goes really hard into it. Like, check out these costumes, man. This guy may or may not be trying to skin and eat you, but he sure does put a lot of effort into his characters.
Haha, what a nerd.
Just make sure not to lose. You don't want to find out how they really make hot dogs. Oh dear lord, it's gonna put me in his cringe compilation. But really, half the fun is just deciphering the myriad of mechanics that pop up over the course of the game. Luckily, a number of the systems will trickle in over the course of your playthrough, so as not to overwhelm you, with two notable exceptions in the later acts of the game, which also happen to coincide with some of the obnoxious learning curve spikes. But a little due diligence or moderate experience with card games will make your time a lot easier.
Which is to say, if you don't have a good eye for cost, power efficiency, and good abilities, you're gonna have a bad time.
There's a lot of intentional obscurity in the gameplay, and part of the larger puzzles and tribulations will be as a result of your lack of information. But really, discovering these things as you go is just as enjoyable as it is nerve-wracking. And discoveries there are. Holy crap. These range from basic logic puzzles like put the safe combination in the safe, to follow a secret path to discover the possible location of one of 3 secret keys that will require a very particular card to be placed at a very particular time, all while still trying not to die horribly.
I can summarily promise you that you will not find everything in this game, unless you really bang your head up against it. I mean like, drawing blood banging.
The good news is, you don't need to find everything. Most of the puzzles you solve will reward you with optional boons and extra cards, things that will make the, at times, crushing difficulty even more enjoyable. Puzzles, secrets, and Easter eggs are really the least you should expect from this developer, so don't feel discouraged if you don't find everything.
Although I gotta say, getting a good card in this game is like a massive dopamine rush. Just hits right in that crack cocaine center of your brain.
Oh yeah. Get diddled, motherfucker. Oh, it don't matter, I win. Oh, give me that money, son. You can't deal with my broken shit. If you're at all familiar with the previous works of Daniel Mullins, nothing I've said here is going to be a surprise. In fact, that's probably what's going to get you interested in Inscryption more than anything else. If you haven't had the chance to try out any of his other games, just know there tends to be a lot more to them than their initial premise.
And for the love of God, do not look at the trailers. Just don't.
Inscryption is, in many ways, a unique experience, colored by dark mysticism, cleverly indulgent, if somewhat schmaltzy storytelling, and a satisfying layer of mechanical crunch that is occasionally muddied by excessive systems, but which will still ultimately entice you with a hint of what's to come. Everything I've said and more is what you should expect from Frog Fractions. That's right. This entire video was just to get you to play Frog Fractions. Look, he's eating the flies. Oh yeah, and then you should go play Inscryption afterwards. And that should give you a good idea of what to expect. Oh right, should you play Inscryption? Yeah, sure, whatever, why not? Frog Fractions, man!